If your nights keep slipping away, then this is why. It's not because you're lazy. It's because your entire day is set up in a way that causes you to lose before your night even begins. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. You wake up, and before your feet hit the floor, you're already behind. But not because something happened, but because your brain, it doesn't have anything to lock into. No target, no clear win, no direction. So your brain, it does what it always does when it has no structure. It's looking for stimulation, and that's why you grab your phone. Not because you want to scroll, but because your brain, it wants to feel engaged. And here's why that's so hard to resist. Your phone is engineered to win in that moment. Every notification, every tap, every scroll releases a hit of dopamine. That's the chemical that your brain uses to signal a reward. And your brain, especially in the morning, chooses that signal over being in discomfort. So you check the time, you see a notification, and you tap it. And before you even realize it, you've already been awake for 10 minutes and you've already handed over control of your day. That matters more than most people realize because the first thing you do in the morning tells your brain what kind of day you're going to have. Is this a day where I lead or is this a day where I react? And most people, they react. So now you rush, you skip things, you cut corners. You told yourself that you were going to stretch. You said you were going to read. You said you were going to take a second to think. But all that gets pushed to the side because now you're trying to catch up. And once you're in catch up mode, that's where you stay all day. Work tells you what matters. People tell you what they need. Problems show up and you handle them. And on the outside, it looks like you're doing everything right. You're working, you're showing up, you're handling your responsibilities, but nothing's actually moving forward because all of your energy is going to maintaining your life and not building a better one. And there's a reason why that drains you differently. Researchers who study decision fatigue, they found that the mental energy that you use to make decisions is drawing from the same pool. Every choice, every problem that you solve, every time that you hold yourself together during a stressful moment, it all pulls from the same resource. And that resource, it doesn't refill during the day, it depletes. So by the time you get home, you're not the same person you were when you woke up. You're running on a fraction of what you started with, and that's why you feel drained, but not because you did too much, but because you're not moving forward. And if you zone out, that's how people lose years. Not from one big mistake, but from nights like this that are stacked up over and over again. And one day you look up and you realize that nothing changed. But it wasn't because you didn't care, it's because your effort, it didn't have direction. Now watch what happens at night. You get home and there's a moment where you think, all right, I'm going to do it tonight. And you mean it. You're thinking about the version of you that you actually respect, the one that works out, the one that gets things done, the one who actually follows through. But here's the problem. That version of you isn't sitting there. The version of you that's sitting there is running on empty. And here's what that means. Once your mental resources are depleted, your brain, it takes away the decision-making abilities from your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that's responsible for long-term thinking and self-control, and gives it to parts of the brain that are driven by instant rewards. So in other words, tired version of you isn't capable of making the same decisions as the rest of the version of you. It's not weakness, it's biology. So when you sit down and you open your phone just to check something, you're no longer just checking anymore, you're drifting. Because your brain is looking for relief, not progress. Something easy, something quick, something that doesn't require much effort. And your phone, it gives that instantly. And if you slow that moment down, you can actually see it happen. You tell yourself you just need a minute. You're going to relax. So you sink into the couch, and before you know it, you're no longer thinking about what you're supposed to do. And before you know it, you're gone. You're mentally checked out. And once you're gone like that, it almost feels impossible for you to come back. Because once your brain gets that first hit of dopamine from passive scrolling, it now raises the bar for the next rewards. And suddenly, work seems less appealing than it did before. And the gap between what you feel like doing versus what you know you should be doing, it gets wider, not smaller. And this is the dangerous part because it feels justified. You tell yourself that you've been working hard all day. You deserve a break. You're going to start after this. And none of those thoughts feel wrong. And that's why they're so dangerous. Because they sound logical, but they lead you in the wrong direction. And the longer you sit there, the harder it is for you to get up. So now, you're not choosing what to do, you're defaulting to what's easiest. And that's how one video turns into 2 and then 5. And now an hour is gone and you didn't even realize it was happening. So a night that was supposed to be different, it looks the same as every other night. Here's where most people get it wrong. They say they need more discipline, but that's not it. Because if this was a discipline problem, they wouldn't fail the same way every single night. That's a system, and systems, they produce predictable results. So here's what's actually happening. You've built a system that guarantees these outcomes. You wake up with no direction. You spend your day reacting. You drain all your mental energy, and then you expect to perform at your best at nighttime? That doesn't make sense. That's like you trying to run your best personal record after you've been sprinting all day. You're cooked. You're not failing your plan. You're executing your system perfectly. Your system was designed to produce the same results every day. And by the time night hits, your brain is trying to conserve energy. It's built to avoid effort, to seek rewards, and save energy. So when you sit down, your brain, it weighs two options. Do something that improves your life, or do something that feels easy. And when that moment isn't protected, your brain will always choose the easiest option. Not because you're weak, but because you chose not to protect that moment. And this doesn't just waste your nights, it changes how you see yourself. Because every time you tell yourself that you're going to do this and you don't, your brain registers it. And it starts building a story that you don't follow through. And after enough of those moments, you stop fighting the story and you start agreeing with it. This is just who I am. And that belief is what's keeping you stuck. Because once you accept it, you stop expecting more from yourself. You lower your standards, you let things slide. And over time, that becomes the new norm. So, no, you didn't fail. You just built a life that guarantees you will. But that also means something else. You can build a life that guarantees you won't, but not through motivation and not through willpower, but through design. So, what actually changes this? It's not more motivation, it's not grinding harder, it's not getting a new morning routine. It's changing that one moment that keeps beating you. The moment that you sit down, that's where your night is decided. Not the following hour, not the workout, not that project, but that first moment. So you build one rule. When I sit down, I start immediately. No phone, no delay. And here's why this works. Most people, they think that motivation leads to action. But research on behavioral activation, it actually shows it's the opposite. Action comes first, and then motivation follows. Your brain, it doesn't generate that drive to do something and then starts doing it. Starts doing it, and then the drive kicks in, which means those feelings that you've been waiting for, the one that makes it easier for you to begin, it actually comes after you've already started, and you felt this before. The nights where you actually got started right away, they weren't perfect. You weren't fired up. You probably didn't want to do it, but once you got started, it got easier. The resistance dropped, and your brain caught up, and that's not a coincidence. That's how action works. You don't wait to feel ready. You start, and then you feel it. And here's what makes that first move easier. Your environment is set up for drifting. Your phone is close, your couch is comfortable, and your evening is set up for consumption. So you got to flip it. And here's why this matters more than most people realize. Research on habit formation shows the amount of friction between you and a behavior determines how often you'll do it. You add just a few more steps between you and a bad habit, and you'll do it less. You remove friction between you and a good habit, and you'll do it more. So you set things up before you get home. Your workspace is ready. Your tasks have already been decided, and your environment is set up for action and not comfort. So when you walk in the door, there's no decision to make. There's no figuring out what to do. You just walk into something that's already been planned. And that removes hesitation, because hesitation is where the scrolling starts when you walk in with no plan. Your brain looks for the path with the least resistance, and it finds it instantly. But when your night has already been set up, all you have to do is start. And then you got to build proof, not progress, proof. Did you do what you said you were going to do or not? Which is the only question. Not how long you did something, not how well you did something, not even how much you did something. Just as simple, did I do what I said I was going to do? And here's why this changes everything. Psychologists that have studied confidence, they found that the most powerful source of self-belief, it's not encouragement, it's not mindset work, it's mastery and experiences. It's those small moments where you did what you said you were going to do, but stacked over a long time. Because your brain, it builds a picture of who you are based off of what it watches you do. Not what you intend to do and not what you want to do, but what you actually do by keeping your promise to yourself. Even doing it once, your brain registers it. So you stack that up day after day, and your story starts to change. From the version of you that doesn't follow through to the version of you that does what he says he's going to do. And once that story starts to shift, your confidence changes, your standards change, what you're willing to tolerate changes, because now you're operating on proof. And here's the part that most people never slow down long enough to see. This isn't about getting more done at night. This is about changing the relationship that you have with your own word right now. There's a gap between what you say and what you actually do. And every time that gap shows up, it costs you something. Not your productivity, but your belief. Your belief that you actually follow through. Your belief that when you say something, it actually means something. Because once that belief erodes, everything else erodes with it. You hesitate more, you commit less, you move slower, and beneath it all, you don't fully trust yourself. But once you start to close that gap, even in the smallest way, something starts to shift. You say you're going to start, and you actually start. You say you're going to finish, and you finish. And at first, it feels a little too simple. But what you're really doing is rebuilding trust within yourself. And once that trust comes back, you don't rely on motivation to move. You don't need to be in the right mood or the perfect moment. You just rely on who you've proven yourself to be.